Alright, so this is a little showcase of the dynamic weapon system I've been working on. It ain't like super robust, but it's pretty well engineered. So all I'm gonna do is import the package. And this is just like a little blank project. It comes with a couple scenes, so you can see the example scene here. Boot it up. It fires. Doesn't fire from where it should because the shoot spot's not in the right position, but ta-da. So basically the way it works, you have a weapon that can have attachable objects, some base stats, and then the cumulative stats. So I created, a magazine, has some stats on it. Barrel has some stats on it. Attach it to the object, and then this weapon prefab handler, you have these slots, and it automatically handles the prefab. So I'm going to show building this up from the rip. So first thing we're going to do, create a weapon. All we do is add weapon. And it go ahead and instantiates this. So now we're going to create a little magazine, and this is just an example magazine. Starts with some base stats, but you can increase it to whatever you want, or decrease or whatever. We're gonna give it a prefab, so I already has some loaded up. So you can see, it comes with some basic prefabs, right? Just a rectangle, a barrel. So on this magazine script, it also takes a shooter. So the way I designed it is that the weapon has a handful of components, but one of them is a shooter, so that you can customize however you want the weapon to shoot, whether it's a flamethrower, whether it's a shotgun, whatever. You can provide it a script, and it just runs the shoot command on the script, and the script can obviously have variable code. So I'll show the code and all that in a second, but for now we're just gonna give it a prefab for a bullet. So boom. And then we're gonna create a slot. So the idea behind this is to decouple the prefab system and the actual scripts, so that you can keep things generic. So for example, you could have a generic magazine script that just changes the prefab instead of changing the script over and over. So the way this works is you don't have to have the mesh renderer or anything like that, but the way the prefab interacts on this specific script, I'll go ahead and add the slot, is that it will stretch to be the size of whatever this slot scale is. So go create, I know I'm gonna add a barrel, so I'll go ahead and create another slot for that. Give it a filter and a renderer. So this is just so we can see what it's supposed to look like. So if we do a little bit of designing here, right? And then you can just scale out. Oh, not that direction. Not that one either. Boom. So that kind of looks like a good barrel. Now if we go back to the mag, probably want it up in here. Let's make sure this is zeroed out. And maybe the mag can be a little bit bigger in the Y direction. Maybe a little bit fatter along like that. And a little bit skinnier. So, you know, we're getting the start of a weapon or something like that. So, you know, when I turn off these renderers, it's not going to show up like anything's there. But then when I go and attach this, right, I just drag it on, you can see it autofills. Now remember that this prefab was just, oh, that's a bullet. This prefab was just a regular rectangle. So it kind of stretched itself to fit that, the area we just defined. So I'll go ahead and add another, you know, attachment. We'll call it barrel. And just use the example barrel script. Same thing, it has some stats, right? We'll pick the prefab. So the barrel. And so same deal, right? This could just be a pretty generic barrel script where, you know, if in game you pick up something, it just changes the stats here and changes prefab, but you don't have to change the entire script. You know, or you could have something that changes the entire script because it has unique functionality, like, you know, like a flamethrower versus a rifle or whatever, or a shotgun. So this one has a position to fire from. I thought that kind of made sense, because you never know the size of a barrel, right? So it could change different sizes. So if I drag this out to in front of where the barrel is gonna stretch to, right? Then when I attach the barrel, it's gonna fire from this right here. And so you can see on the magazine, the bullet shooter that we set, you can see it got set here. It has a position to fire from, and right now it doesn't have any. So when I attach this barrel, oh, whoops. We didn't add the slot script. And the slot has a type. We gotta set the barrel. So now you can see it immediately attaches itself. The barrel shows up based on our prefab. And well, we'll see what happens. Oh, because we never, right, we never set it on the barrel script, so it never got set on the mag script. And I'm clicking this button just to make it validate, because I got the way I set the weapon script up is everything reattaches itself when you validate the weapon. So let me go ahead and mess with the main camera here, just so we can see a little bit better what's going on. You know, just give it some kind of angle here, little third person perspective or something. So now you can kind of see what happens, right? It works. It shoots from the fire spot. If we change the fire spot, you can see that's where it instantiates. If we change any of the stats, so say it's firing really slow, right? Let's change the bullet velocity. You can see on the weapon has base stats, cumulative stats, change, right? Now it shoots a lot faster. So that's kind of how the system works. Diving into the scripts a little bit. Let me pull up Visual Studio. So it's all based around these interfaces. And they kind of take this generic type, so that when you go and create something like a weapon, right? So the weapon takes the generic type stats, where stats is iStatable. So all it has is this, interface that it has to implement. So when we go and create a weapon, we can pass it any type of class we want. So for this weapon, I just made an example stats. As long as it implements this interface, which just has these basic things on it. So what this means is everything should be able to work together, guaranteed, as long as they implement the interfaces necessary, right? So for example, on the weapon has to have these methods. Attach, it should take an attachable, right? So any weapon part, for example, the example bullet, as long as it has attachable on it with the same, type of stats as the weapon, then the weapon should be able to work with it. So to show this point a little bit better, right? What we're gonna do is create a new class out here. We're gonna call it, I don't know, stock, right? So maybe a weapon stock here. We're gonna pull it up, and all we have to do is implement that attachable. If I can spell. We have to do using dynamic weapon system, and that should. There we go. And so I know this weapon already uses the example stats. Now you could do this with a generic. I just didn't in this case to make my life easier. So example stats is what we're using. And you can see it has an error, right? Because it doesn't implement any of those interface members. So if I just hit control dot, implement interface, it'll automatically populate all the methods from this iAttachable interface, which is very nice. And then what should happen now is if I create a new, so I didn't even write any code for this thing, right? I didn't write anything yet. It's just gonna throw not implemented exceptions. But if I create an empty object, call it stock, I add the component stock, because it is attachable, should be able to plug right in, right? Now it's gonna throw a not implemented because the weapon is trying to get the stats off it. Or no, it's trying to attach the object, right? So this attach is called anytime the weapon is attached, or the item is attached. So for example, we could just stock attached, right? And then we could also show what weapon it got attached to. So I don't know what the fuck that's all about, but alright, so it's trying to apply the stats, right? So it's trying to get the stats off of this stock and apply it here, but it's still on the not implemented. So I'm just gonna go ahead and implement some of this stuff, right? So we know this is trying to get the example stats. So let's create a serialized field, example stats, and then we can go ahead and initialize it. Fire rate, damage, max ammo. So let's just say the bullet velocity, or no, let's say the fire rate increases, right? So let's set it to, I don't know, something absurd so we can see it. Maybe 50. Now all we have to do is return this right here. right? So this is what it's expecting in order to work with the weapon. Because when the weapon goes and on update, what it's gonna do is recalculate all the stats, or it checks if you get the input key and then shoot, right? So if I go to the definition here, what it's gonna do is create a new stats for the cumulative stats. We're gonna add the base stats to it, and then for every attachable on the weapon, we're just gonna apply the stats. So what this is gonna do is pass us the cumulative stats, then we're gonna add our stats to it, and then return it. So we'll say stats add stats. So we could add stats here. And then I don't know, multiply stats by something else. So we can multiply the damage by 5, right? So the damage is going to increase, and then we're going to return the stats. So this is why we call it apply stats rather than just add or multiply, so that each script has its own control over it. Then on detach, we could say start detached. I can't spell. There's no T here. I've been messing that up all over the place. Then for get stats, guess what? Just return the stats. And then perform actions is going to be called well, so the idea is you could create a weapon and you can perform the actions whenever you want, but obviously every time in the update loop it should just be called, right? So if, for example, on a magazine you want to check the bullet count and then reload or something like that, or like if a barrel has a heat to it that cools down when it's not shooting, or heats up if it is shooting. You see what I'm saying? So like, anyways, but for now we're just gonna you know what, we could show that off actually. So when we attach to the weapon, what we can do is we can create this iWeapon example stats, and we're going to get a reference to the weapon we're attached to, and then when we perform the action, if the weapon is shooting, then we'll say let's just create some serializable field. And shooting should increase by times that delta time, right? And then we'll do the same thing. So we'll say shooting should decrease by, right? And then if shooting less than 0, shooting equals 0. Boom. So just some basic stuff. This is just to show off the action, but this could be like a barrel heat, right? So that when the weapon's not shooting, it decreases, and when the weapon is shooting, it increases. And then you could, if the barrel heats, whatever. So we could do like if shooting is greater than 10, we'll just log something. Big number. Boom. Yeah. So right, this should be a fully fleshed out script that when it's attached to the weapon, it does something. When it's time for the weapon to apply its stats, you know, if it has to add stats, subtract stats, multiply stats, whatever. So like if you had plus 30% weapon damage, you know, or if you had plus 7 bullets in clip, or you know, whatever you wish. And then when it detaches, whatever you have to do. And then it's just like a helper method. That's all it really takes. The other thing it needs to have, it doesn't have to have this, so I'll go ahead and show this. So right, let's add the stock to the weapon. Stock attach to weapon, whatever, because I guess this doesn't really have a name. And you can see the max ammo got multiplied by 5. Crazy. So let's look at the mag. The mag gives it plus 0 damage. Barrel gives it plus 0 damage. But the base damage, I guess, is 15. So, oh wait, no. Did we multiply the ammo by 5? What did we even do? Oh, did I break it? Sheesh. What the hell? Alright, well, what happens when we detach the stock? What did we do on the stock that, oh, you know what? I think we ended up multiplying some stuff by 0. So we'll go 1, 5, 1, 1. Whatever. I don't know what the fuck happened there. What happened to our stat script? Ah, see? It squared itself. Anyways, that's a bug. I'll fix that. There we go. That makes more sense. But yeah, we did multiply the damage by 5, right? So 14.2. And it goes to 71, which I'm gonna, yeah, that's times 5. So it works just fine. But you'll notice it doesn't populate the prefab handler because we have to apply one more class here. So I prefab displayable and takes a slot. I actually don't know what we use for that. Oh, right. So this is for the position of the weapon. So we'll go ahead and copy this and we'll add stock, right? So now when we go up here, first let's remove this. So we just changed the weapon position enum that the weapon prefab handler is having. Yeah. So now if we go down to any of these slots, right now we have stock available to it. So then when we go up here, and we do the iPrefab displayable, this type. Again, just control dot, it shows us exactly what we need to have. When I press enter, pops up. So we need to have a prefab, right? So we'll go serialized field, game object, prefab. and then we'll just return it. And we could say, we could do a little check, right? Throw an exception in. No prefab. I would never actually use that as an exception, but just for an example. So when we get the slot, right? So what slot is this supposed to attach to? Is this a magazine? Is this, which one of these are we trying to attach to? We're gonna go example weapon position enum. Slot, we gotta give it a name. I just lost my brain for a second. I'm just gonna hard set it to be a stock, right? Because we're making a stock here. Then we'll return the slot, and then we already have the stats. And is that everything? So let me look at displayable. So yeah, just get the prefab and get the slot. That's all we need to do. Cool. So now automatically it's giving us our error, right? Because it's trying to attach it to the weapon prefab handler, and we don't have a prefab. So let's go ahead and give it one. So I'll make a new. Let's just create an empty. All right. Let's create a. Let's just make a cube because I'm lazy. We'll call it stock prefab. Boom. I don't like that color. Let's give it a better color. Black. Nice. And then let's 0 it out because I'm lazy. All right, and let's say our stock looks like that, and then we'll add another game object. Or let's add another cube. Whoops. Position it off to the side, scale it down maybe. What the heck? Oh wait, that's rotation. I'm cooked. Okay. So yeah, something like that. And then, I don't know. Alright, so some kind of just object. And we'll drag it here. Delete it. So obviously you probably want a better prefab for a stock, but so now it's gonna say no slot of that type attached, right? Because it's trying to attach it, but we don't have a slot for it. So we'll go stock slot. Give it a type. Boom, automatically attaches. So if we go here, let's do the same thing. Give it a mesh filter, a mesh renderer, just so we can see what we're doing. I'll give it a color, blue, why not? So you can see the stock's already moving around. So I'll say the stock should go at the end of the barrel, but we could put it wherever. And then for the scale, let's make it pretty big. Boom. Ooh. Yeah, let's make it something like that. And then, alright, so now let's hide the mesh renderer. Oh, I guess our stock prefab. I guess you can't see that. Let's make it red then. Clear out all these errors. Press this just to reinitialize it. And there's our stock, right? So that's kind of how the system works. Yeah, the idea is that using these interfaces, you can create custom classes um, that automatically attach to whatever system. You know, you could create different weapons, and the stocks will, all these attachables will automatically attach to these different weapons as long as it implements the weapon interface. So like if you wanted to create, I don't know, a networked one, right? Something, because this has no networking done to it. Then you could do that. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. I don't know if any of that makes any sense, but I think it's pretty nifty. Um, Obviously there's a lot to build on it. I kind of just have this basic stuff. Um, and it's not absolutely perfect. For example, this weapon prefab handler that I added, this is not. Oh, yeah, because it is shooting, right? So that stock number is gonna keep going up because we set it to is shooting, but now it's gonna keep going down. Big, big number. So now it's gonna, yeah. Anyways, the reason I did that is so like, check this out. So it's going down, but then we start shooting, it's going back up. So you can kind of see like the idea, right? Um, Anyways, I don't know if any of this makes any sense, but the idea is that you could have like five of these different weapons or a million of these different barrels, and they could each have their own unique functionality that does whatever you want it to, right? So for the magazine, for example, where is it? So when you attach the magazine has that weapon shooter that we had on it, right? Um, Example bullet shooter. So the way I thought about it is like if a magazine has, napalm in it, you're gonna want to be able to shoot the weapon. The way the weapon shoots should be different than if the magazine has like AK bullets in it. Um, so this one just gets the examples, the weapon shooter that's attached to it, and sets it on the actual weapon. So we could attach whatever kind of bullet shooter if we wanted to create a different one. This one's pretty basic. It just instantiates a bullet, fires it. But to kind of show my point, right? If we create a new, well, let me do it through Unity. Create a new class, advanced bullet shooter. Boom. Then all we have to do is attach the oh, hold up. Dynamic weapon system. All we have to do is attach our shooter. It wants a type, so it wants a type of stats. We're using example stats right now. And then same error, right? It wants to implement the interface, so we don't even need to do any of this. Yes, take a game object, position to fire from. So obviously you're gonna want. Now you don't have to make a serialized field, but call it shoot spot, and then so right, this should set where it's able to fire from. Then when you shoot it, you should, instantiate um man, I'm trying to think. What happened with our other one? Oh, we just attached the bullet prefab to it. Let's do the same thing here. Serialized field, bullet prefab, instantiate. So let's make this a burst fire weapon, right? Just to show off, or burst fire shooter. So what I'm gonna do is every time you shoot, it instantiates 3 bullets instead of 1. Um, instantiate example stats. Right. So we're gonna make game object bullet prefab. I don't remember exactly how to instantiate. Oh, right. Yeah, position and rotation. So we're just gonna do the same thing. And then the angle. And then we're gonna say bullet dot. Oh yeah, we have a bullet script actually. So let's do the same thing here. So now the bullet should be able to set speed, and then in the update it just goes forward. So let's set the speed to the stats bullet velocity. Yeah. And maybe we can add can you make a new quaternion? I don't know how fucking angles work. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother with that, but for like a shotgun you could add different angles, you know what I mean? But yeah, we can set the speed to the bullet velocity, and then we could just boom. So what if we just make 3 bullets? Just like as an example, right? Now let's remove this component. Let's add our new advanced bullet shooter. Let's create the, let's grab that prefab. Boom. And then, let it reinitialize itself. Whatever, so we got that fire spot. Now when we shoot it, it's gonna create them all in the exact same spot, but you can see it creates 3 bullets at one time. So you can do different stuff. It's kind of the point. But yeah, it's pretty robust, obviously. So what I would do if we want to make like some kind of game on top of this is I would just go through and create a lot of these scripts. What's nice about it too is like you don't have to ever go back and edit anything. You can just keep adding. So like you can leave these here. It doesn't matter. You never have to change these. You can just make brand new scripts, right? You can just make brand new attachables and never even put these in the game if you don't want to. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think that's about everything. Yeah. All right, bye.